Great, thank you. Hello, everybody. This is Krista Giannak, Wise Words That Matter. I work with businesses and nonprofits to help them get noticed. So you might have seen that little glitch in the beginning where we were like, oh my goodness, it finally clicked. I just had one of those afternoons. And the other side of it as well is with the holiday weekend that we just had. I had one of those situations where I was like, oh, I can do my Facebook Live tomorrow. I don't have to worry about it. And then I realized, oh, it's Wednesday. It's time for me to go live. So I'm sure, can any of you relate to that? So today we're going to be talking about breaking all the rules on my Wise Words That Matter page here. So, and I'm just making sure that this is definitely streaming. I need to close the app that I had, because I use a volunteer to help me go live every week. I have someone adjust the camera with me. And so sometimes that works better than others. Sometimes I go right on the air right away, and sometimes it takes a good few minutes. And so that's kind of why I can never make it at an exact time. And that's the challenge that I've had. So anyway, so when I was a kid, sometimes people would say that I was being rude when I got really upset. And so one rule that I broke when I was upset, I would say things like, "You make me so mad. You make no sense. You're whatever. You're XYZ, ABC." Always using you statements. So one teacher in particular just kept telling me I was rude, but another teacher gave me a rule to follow instead, using I statements. So instead of "you make no sense," "I'm confused. I don't understand." Instead of "you're bothering me. I feel frustrated when you do that." You know, so that sort of difference in language is a good rule to follow, and it's not a good rule to break. But then other times, rules can be fun to break. When I was a kid, I wrote a story about a girl who could float into space. She didn't need anything. She just floated up there. It floated among the stars. And so my teacher said, "You can't do that. She needs a spaceship." And I said, "But it's my story and my made-up characters, so I can do whatever I want." And so kids break more rules. They tend to test more limits. But there are times that rules are meant to be broken, whether we're kids or whether we're adults. And so I recently wrote a blog post about breaking grammar rules. And so there are a number of folks who've broken grammar rules and made it work, because sometimes breaking grammar rules is exactly what you need to do in order to share your message. So I'll give you an example. There's an author, Barbara Park, and she's an award-winning children's novelist, or if you want to call it that, but children's book author. And she wrote the books. One rule that she stuck to, even though they were books for very young children, she wrote them in the form of chapter books. And so that struck me as interesting, because certain rules, when you keep them, they make you feel really grown up to keep the rules. So when you're reading a chapter book, ooh, I'm reading a chapter book, I'm so grown up. And also, if you want me to adjust the camera at all, please do let me know, since I am blind and can't actually see the screen. So getting back to the Junie B. Jones series by Barbara Park, so she would use all kinds of phrases like "my bestest friend," or that meanie Jim, or, fun phrases like that that really make you feel, because Junie B. Jones was the narrator of her own story, and she was in kindergarten or first grade or whatever grade, depending on when you read her. And so Barbara Park had her speak like a kid might speak. And so it actually made her more endearing to hear the grammar rules being broken right there in front of you. Another more adult example of breaking the rules is in advertising. Advertisements often break rules. So one example would be Think Different from Apple. It's not think differently. It's not think in different ways. It's not think in various ways about various types of people. It's think different. Simple, short, sweet. So you see what I mean about how it carries multiple messages. You can think of it as thinking about diversity. So Apple is really, really big on accessibility for people with disabilities, and it's one reason that I love the iPhone. It's the main reason, because they were the ones to bring touchscreen operating systems within the abilities of blind people to use. I got my first iPhone about 8 years ago, and it was so exciting because I suddenly learned that I can operate a touchscreen. I was like, how the heck am I going to operate a touchscreen? But it turns out that they came up with all of these gestures. So I don't know if you can see this. But like, you can see the screen here, and I'm going to I can tap on things. So I can swipe back and forth, and I can tap on what I'm looking for. So I'm going to put hello, for example, and hello shows up on the screen because I double tapped it. So whereas you would tap, I have to double tap. And I can swipe to move around the screen. I can touch a point on the screen. It says video where I'm touching now. So you can see how by using gestures that are different, that Apple allows blind and visually impaired people to navigate the screen of an iOS device. So they broke, quote unquote, the rules. They did think different, and they thought outside the box. And thinking outside the box is often what people need. People in all sorts of industries, including mine. I'm a copywriter and I'm a PR professional, and it's easy to get stuck in boxes. We start thinking of our industry the way we've learned about it. But what you often need is an outsider's perspective, someone who can come in and say, why are you following this rule? Is it because you want to follow the rule, or is it just because you never really thought about it before? And that's an important distinction. And I'd love to hear in the comments whether if you've broken a rule that might be fun or difficult or interesting. I'd love to hear your stories, or even just a moment or two. Maybe it was just that you had a speeding ticket. Or maybe that was the example that my social media manager gave when he saw my breaking the rules grammar post. Or maybe it was just, maybe you changed something. Maybe you broke some rule of networking. So here's a rule of networking that I've seen people tend to do what everyone else is doing at a particular meeting. But that's not, because they kind of look at it as an unwritten rule, but that's not necessarily what you want to go for. So I'll give an example. I was in a networking group where no one was standing. Everyone was sitting and just introducing themselves. And this one person decided, no, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to break the unwritten rule. And they introduced themselves very differently than the rest of us had done up to that point. And it was seen as a positive that this person, quote unquote, broke the rule. So I'm sure that you networkers, I know quite a few networkers watch these Facebook Live videos. And so you know exactly what I'm talking about, where sometimes someone will break a rule and it will be helpful. So I'm looking forward to hearing about your rules that you've broken or kept and how that's influenced you. And keep in mind too that I'm back here every week. So I'll be back again next Wednesday at 3 p.m. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.